Hey, everybody. Chaz Patrick here for the Patrick Connection August Huddle. And I am excited to see everyone. I know it's been quite a long time, quite a month or so. So, that being said, our little recap last month, we had EPD or Evansville Police Department. So, we had Sergeant Brasher provided with some great detail as far as, his Marine Corps experience and how he transitioned into being in with Evansville Police Department. So for this month, I have a fantastic individual. I know him. Well, I initially had known him through Rotary. Come to find out, he was also an Army veteran, but he's doing some great things within the Hoosier State. And so I am going to welcome him to the stage. Hey, Darren.
How you doing this morning?
I am fantastic, sir. How are you?
I'm doing really well. It's an awesome day.
Awesome. Yes, it is. So I didn't want to take your thunder, and I wanted to go ahead and give you this, stages to kind of talk about who you are and what you represent. So I'm gonna go ahead and let you talk about it yourself.
Okay, where do I start? I guess probably with my profession, what it is that I do for a living, and I own the mortgage company of Southern Indiana. I'm an independent mortgage broker. I've been in the field of finance, personal finance, for about 28 years, and I've owned my business here for 18. And over the years, I've learned that my strengths lie in helping those who are first-time home buyers and also veterans. So I specialize as well, and I'm a certified veterans lending specialist through the National Association of Mortgage Brokers. And I just found that connection is, I kind of miss that, being a veteran after you're done with your tour of service, whether you're active reserve or me. I was a combination. I was active and reserve. I miss that connection, that camaraderie, and I feel I get that with what it is that I do to serve veterans now with obtaining their home loan benefits.
Okay. So let's really kind of talk about that, the military service side. I know you briefly touched on it. Like, what did you do exactly?
Okay, so I joined at age 18, and Ronald Reagan was president. So that was quite some time ago. There was actually two Germanys at that point in history, and I was very fortunate to be able to be stationed in Fort Carson, Colorado, in the 4th Infantry Division, and then later transitioned to Heidelberg, Germany. And I worked in the field of transportation. So I was a, quote, motor transportation specialist. I think it was a 64 Charlie. Now it's an 88 Mike for those military folks. And had a lot of fun learning how to drive anything with wheels and in the military. So that benefited me. The big benefit to me was to be able to go to college afterwards. So immediately following my active duty tour service, then I transitioned to be a full-time student. And I did spend 5 years in college, but I do have 2 degrees. So I did spend all of the benefit that I had from my military service. So my transition was a little different. And in going from being a full-time soldier to being a full-time college student was a bit of a challenge, but I did stay in the reserve component. So that kind of helped me maintain my service. And then over the years, just decided that this was a fun part, and having a second career provided additional opportunities for me. So over the years, I'd cross-trained in other things such as infantry, went to airborne school, got my EIB, expert infantryman badge, and then went to become a drill sergeant for a few years. So I was a drill sergeant during my reserve duty in Fort Benning, Georgia. So an infantry drill sergeant. So that was a pretty cool part-time job. And then later on, I transitioned to work at division and became chief of public affairs for my Army Reserve Division. I worked for 3 separate 2-star generals, and just had a great time learning more about the Army at a bigger level. So that's it. 21 years of service in a nutshell. And I was fortunate to have a lot of good leaders over that time period, and a lot of strong mentors, and just I got to do a lot of really cool things. So I really enjoyed my service time. What else can I tell you, Chaz? That's it. I think for what we're trying to accomplish here today, just a short overview.
Well, I like that, and I like that. You really kind of provided that where you started, right, as a motor T guy, and then how you ended. So that's what I was going to ask my follow-up question related to your military service. Transferable skills. How did that benefit you Well,
Well,
I guess civilian wise and military wise, right?
I look at some of the things and I think about basic training and I think about being a drill sergeant and I think about what we tried to instill right away. And it was to take initiative. And I didn't know that word right off the bat when I got in, and I'm an 18-year-old kid, and I'm like, my drill sergeant said, "You got to take initiative," and I'm like, "What does initiative mean?" And I'm like, "Oh, initiative. Oh, okay." I didn't really understand what he was saying, but we learned early on that you have to think on your feet, you have to act, you have to respond, and you have to just kind of figure things out and take initiative and take the ball and run with it. And that became to me in my job and the things that I've done as a bank manager, and then of course running my own business and helping guide other people and mentor other folks. It's just so important that just taking initiative is such a big deal. Being on time. I can't understand today why people just are not on time. And we of course you being in the Marines, you understood that you had to be where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there 15 minutes prior, and it just was ingrained. And so I think about all those little basic skills, and then of course as time progressed, doing other things as a non-commissioned officer and as a drill instructor, showing up in uniform and looking good in uniform and really paying attention to detail. So that's another one, attention to detail. So you think about initiative, showing up on time, and paying attention to detail. If you could bring those skill sets to any employer, they're going to put you in the front of the line, because most of the other things are basic or can be learned, I should say. Then I think about public speaking and the ability to organize people and lead. I think now our workforce is void of any real leadership skills and public speaking. And so when you're a drill instructor, when you learn to be a drill instructor, public speaking is pretty important, because you have to not only be able to talk very loudly at people. You can only yell so much. You have to train basic skills of how to fight on a battlefield and how to survive on a battlefield. And
Yep.
so at some point, the stereotype of yelling and screaming at people, I know that's overemphasized, but really 80% or more of the job is training and instilling confidence as a leader for your subordinates, and then as well training those skills that they're going to need not only in life but potentially on a battlefield. So that I think was a big deal, to be able to get in front of people and in front of hundreds. And I think some of the best times as a drill instructor was be able to march a whole company and have them all in step and everything. That was like the peak of, you knew you were a successful drill sergeant when you were running a whole company and marching in cadence. And there was a lot of other victories along the way, but I recall that as being one of the pinnacles of what I was able to do in a part-time capacity, to be a drill instructor. But I look at those benefits then that led me into my civilian career, and then as well into other things in my career, and to be able to work into the field of public relations and public affairs. So that was a little bit of a transition as well. Now starting with basic training, and then moving on to briefing full bird colonels and generals on missions and things that we were doing that related to the public. So it was a big deal, but all of those foundation skills, I believe, were directly relatable to my civilian occupation.
Okay. Okay.
And I work on it a lot today, just being able to break things down easily for people who are first-time home buyers, and being able to relate to and explain things on a very, very basic level for the Veterans Home Loan Benefit. There's a lot of misconceptions about Veterans Home Loan Benefits, and so I think that's another skill set that's been that I was able to refine when I was a soldier and an NCO, and later on a senior NCO. I think all of those things are directly correlated to what I do today.
Fantastic. Yes. You never know, like the different lives, they all interconnect and, shape you for who you are today.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to ask you, so did you ever see like any of your recruits after you finished out?
I never have. And I always wondered, at the time I did training, how they ended up, and, how did they end up in perhaps a deployment or combat deployment, or where did they end up in their career. So the way we worked, we integrated with the active duty component, and we were side by side with the active reserve, or well, the active and reserve were side by side. So basically, once we proved ourselves as reserve drill sergeants, they let us take the ball and run with it during the training cycle. Some of the drill sergeants took they would like take the whole summer off and do a whole training cycle. Usually we had 2 or 3 weeks, but I've always wondered that. I've always wondered if any of the trainees, and again, this was quite some time ago, how they ever transitioned. And I kind of missed that part. I wish I would run across one or two that said, "Hey, I remember you when you yelled at us getting off the bus and we were scared, and we eventually learned how to all march together, and then, or you taught me this, or you inspired me to do that." And usually within those 2-week time periods, it was gratifying just in a short period of time to have those soldiers come to you and say, I really appreciate, I hate seeing you go. I wish you could stay the whole cycle. So you did something right.
Drill instructors, they definitely set a really peak memory in your mind when you're entering the military service. And I can tell you, I remember my senior drill instructor, Staff Sergeant. Well, he'd probably be a Master Sergeant now if he's still in, but Staff Sergeant Barham at the time. And I can just remember we were sitting there and they went ahead and put their hand up. And you could just see like their muscles just pulsating and veins popping out. I'm thinking like, man, what did I sign myself up for?
Yeah.
But obviously with drill instructor, you had to set the precedent and, bring the intensity. We really got to kind of understand him and learn a little bit about him during that training phase. So,
and if you look at, if you get kind of past the smoke and mirrors of, in Hollywood, I guess, or we used to, like all of the act to a large degree, because it is, you have to really, you have to be another person and you have to act as a drill sergeant. But if you get past that, then you think about the ones that inspired you and the ones really that helped you. The leadership skills that you had to have was you had to instill confidence that you can do this task. You had to be an encourager. Of course, you had to weed out. You had to say, okay, this soldier's not, I'm not comfortable with this soldier being side by side on me in a battlefield. And I think we need to take appropriate action to have him find another career opportunity. But if you think about the things that you did as a leader, if you think about what those drill sergeants did for you, they instilled confidence. They taught you things, and think about how well those things are valued now as you get older, and you go, wow, that's very impressive that they were able to do those things under that type of condition, and how it helped form and shape your mindset when it come to being in the workforce. And so I think that's why, and the point I'm driving at, Chaz, is those who've gone through that experience and had a positive experience, they should not discount what they've been taught and how they've been led when it comes to the workplace, because they got a lot of skills. If your theme here today is talking about transferable skills, that ability to take initiative, to be where you're supposed to be, when you're supposed to be there in the right uniform 15 minutes prior. I'm interviewing today, and I am shocked at the amount of younger folks who just, this morning, for example, I was interviewing a young man, and he just didn't show up. He just forgot about his appointment. And I'm just shocked at, and this happens from other folks too that I'm speaking with who are business owners, and they're trying to hire people, and they just don't get the basics. And that has been so instilled. So I guess my message to anyone who's a veteran, who's still on active duty or getting ready to come off, think about all of those basic soldier skills, or if you're in the Marines or whatever branch of service, those basic skills are very, very valuable in the workforce today. Don't underestimate the value of how you've been taught to show up on when you're supposed to be there and take initiative, and when in charge, take charge. And I would, right now, I just wish I had 10 veterans who would call me and say, hey, I want to come work for you, because I know their work ethic. I know their standard. I know that they can get the job done. They can be trusted.
That's true. And actually, there was a LinkedIn report that came out, more specifically to veterans, of course, and it had shown that, obviously when really analyzing like the job market and the economic conditions, that veterans possess like the top 10 skills that most employers are looking for, right? Leadership, initiative, communication, just, just the gamut. Yeah, they did a big report, and they found that those things were relevant. And also that now I think most veterans are really taking advantage of the tuition assistance program, right? So they're going for those advanced degrees. So by the time they're getting out of service, I've seen some that have bachelor's or master's degrees, sometimes 2 master's degrees. And
Absolutely.
so just that kind of level and that caliber that the military provides helps you with the transition. I mean, it's just, it's I always say, like, you get the cards you dealt, how are you going to deal them? And I definitely feel that, being a veteran definitely provides you with reputable and value within, the skill sets that many employers are looking for.
Absolutely. I see a lot of veterans that when they come off of active duty and they're getting ready, and they're of course they're uncertain because they've been in a position to where they've kind of traveled around. I had a Navy vet get out after 15 years, and he was really, really concerned. He goes, for the past 15 years, I just kind of showed up and did whatever I was supposed to do. And I'm like, don't discount the value of all of your training when it comes to leading people and work ethic. And I think about work ethic and how that's been instilled, and the idea of service, that we as veterans, when we're on active duty, we just kind of take that for granted.
Yeah.
It's like, and that's a foreign concept to many people now in the workforce. It's all about themselves. It's all about, what can I get out of this? And when you go to an employer and say, what could I do for you? How can I help you? How can I take problems off of your plate? How can I help become a problem solver? We're trained from the beginning, from the day one, we're problem solvers. As soon as we hit the bricks, as soon as you get off the bus, you got to start solving problems, because drill sergeants, how do you solve problems? And then of course you get done with basic and AIT, you become a real good problem solver. You get to your active duty unit. Now you got more problems to solve. Then you become in charge of people, and you become an NCO, or maybe become an officer, and you become a super problem solver then, because now you have people that you have to take care of. And I just don't think that, that again, that's a foreign concept to many in the workforce today. And I think also about teamwork, and I think about not only leadership, but being a servant leader and selfless service. That also, and you and I know this from Rotary, that's part of the basic framework of becoming a Rotarian, is service above self. And veterans have lived that, some for many, many years. And when you go to employers and you talk about the things that you've done, and you talk about your work ethic, and you talk about the idea of selfless service and being a servant leader, you're going to just rock it through, and they're going to put you to the top of, and give you the best assignments and provide the best opportunities. I think it's just a matter of articulating it and not being afraid to say, I was in the service. I was a Marine, or I was a soldier, instead of I was in the service. I was an airman, or again, Marines are good about that. You don't say I was in the Marine Corps. You say I'm a Marine. So it's a different mindset. And I know that we're trying to change that to a degree in the Army, instead of saying, oh, I'm in the Army, to I'm a soldier. Yep. So it's a different mindset. And I think that communicating that, and perhaps even having as you're getting off of active duty and transitioning out, getting others to maybe help coach you through and how you would present yourself, and not really, and because I remember when I got out, it was like, oh, I was kind of in the service, but I didn't know really how to articulate those things and how to explain those things when it came to job interviews. And over the years, of course, I developed through that and was able to better express and better explain. But I looked at all those things and I'm like, wow, I learned a lot, and I brought a lot of value to my unit. And I have these skills that are transferable, that many people that I'm competing with for that job just don't have. Or not only do they not have them, they have absolutely no idea. So you calling them out? Okay.
Sorry about that. I guess the the mailman was outside and the dog didn't like it, or somebody was outside and the dog didn't
It's
like
all
it.
good.
I'm
He was doing his job.
back. Exactly. So, um,
So back to, I guess you'll have to cut that part out. He's still barking a little bit.
oh, this dog, he is funny. Let's do this. I'm gonna pause.
I think we were talking about the transition coming from especially active duty. Maybe you've done a 3, 4, 5 year, 6 year term or whatever, or maybe you're retiring and you have to think, okay, now I have a new career. And I think it would be helpful to find other veterans that have already gone through the transition. I think that's a big part of what you're trying to accomplish
Mhm.
is get some coaching from some of the other veterans and just ask them and practice on your identifying your inventory of skills and how those can be translated over to civilian life. And again, if a person's been in the military and has been a non-commissioned officer and gone through some of the non-commissioned officer training and the leadership development courses, those are huge, 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 huge in the workforce because you know how to lead people, and you as a soldier or a Marine or airman or sailor, uh, you know how to lead people, and that is an absolutely strong skill set. And to be able to lead yourself and have the self discipline, that's the other part of the equation here. That as I interview people, I'm just shocked by lack of individual accountability and lack of self discipline on some of the basics. So if my advice for those who are coming off of active duty, whether they're in their first year, 3 to 5 years, or whatever the case may be, or retiring, um, know that when you go into the workforce, you have a significant advantage over the folks who are competing for those same jobs just because of the training that you've had. So I would not discount that a bit.
Okay. Okay. Now let's from we talked about the employment, like from jobs. What about with self-employment or entrepreneurship?
Entrepreneurship. I'm glad you touched on that. I've been appointed by Governor Holcomb to serve on a commission and to help veterans who want to um, do business with the state of Indiana or the state of any related entities for the state of Indiana. That might be universities, could be the Forestry Service, or whatever the case may be. So what I'm learning in this commission is that there are many assets out there and tons of folks, lots of people who want to help veterans not only start their businesses, help develop them, and help coach them. And there is a company. I have the business card here. Just a moment. I believe it's under Indiana Workforce Development, if I can find it. Oh, I'm not prepared for
No,
that
you're fine.
card somewhere. Um, so what this? Oh, here it is, right here. It is called the Indiana Small Business Development Center. So if you're a small business owner, you can reach out to these folks and sign up with them, and they will provide you coaching on whatever the type of business you are working in. And I decided to use this myself, so this is available. So if you're a veteran getting off of active duty, or you're just maybe you've been off for a while and you're thinking, hey, I've been working, I'm doing this job, and I want to start my own business, that's tremendous opportunity. Also, I'm learning that Ivy Tech has some programs as well that is focused on entrepreneurship.
Yeah, I'm actually checking it out right now.
Okay, perfect.
That way people can kind of cue in. It's funny you mentioned Ivy Tech. But one, here's a you said the ISBDC.
Correct.
All right, there are a bunch of different resources on here, and you can actually
Yeah.
find them by your area too. Points of contact.
So my goal as a commissioner is to find ways to help people to learn about all these resources. It's just amazing of how many resources are there because and I got on this focusing on this topic before because I found in my job as a mortgage broker helping veterans with their home loan benefits, I was shocked at how many people just didn't know about their home loan benefit. And a conference I just came back from a few months ago said that in the state of Indiana, only about 10% of eligible Hoosier veterans are using their VA home loan benefit.
Wow.
So it's shocking that veterans get out, and I understand you get done and you're like, I'm done. I don't want to have anything more to do with it in many cases. Like, and you kind of check out in your mind for military service. And unfortunately, I think a lot of veterans check out their benefit, or in their mind check out the benefits they have left on the table.
Mm-hmm.
I did that. When I got out, I retired, and I'm like, okay, I'm done. And I know that there's some things some benefits that I probably should have taken advantage of sooner. And in my case, it was service-related disability. So I have tinnitus, I have ringing in my ears, and I have loss, obviously being on rifle ranges and being around loud stuff that blew up. And it progresses as you get older. And I finally filed a claim, and I waited many, many years for that, several years. And what I didn't know was that I got 4 children, and their college tuition is paid for as long as they go to a state school. So
Yep.
the only thing I needed was a 10% disability. And for many years, I just thought, oh, I don't want to go do that. It's going to take some time. And is it worth it? It's only a couple $100, not even a couple $100 a month to get a 10% disability. But as I dug into it and talked to other fellow veterans, they're like, no, you need to go do it. And I'm like, I didn't really, all of my deployments were non-combat. So I didn't dodge bullets. I didn't have those things that when people went on combat deployments, I didn't have that same experience. I did plenty of deployments, went to the desert and was downrange quite a bit, but they weren't combat deployments. So I kind of felt in my mind that, is that something I'm really eligible for? And I procrastinated. I left it on the back burner. And I regretted it after I got my benefit, because I found out that not only I was under the impression that with the 10% disability rating, that my children will only get 30% off of their college bill, off their tuition bill. But what I found out later was that is the new law. The old law, since I served before 2003 or 2011, I forget the exact year, said that any rating of 10% or greater, you get 100% off of their tuition. So all these years, I had 2 daughters that went to college that got their bachelor's degrees that could have got all of their tuition paid for. So that's real money. They're working on their master's. The good news is they're working on their master's degrees now, and they're getting a discount on their tuition for that. But that was a benefit because it's not retroactive. My claim wasn't retroactive, but it was a legitimate claim. And then I still have a hearing loss claim. So I got to go back in for my hearing test and try to get my additional rating. Uncle Sam said I was deaf, but not deaf enough to get a check. So I have to go back and get it tested.
Oh, it's not enough, right? You're deaf, not enough.
What I found, and what's important about that story and my own personal journey on this, is what I want to be the encourager when people are coming in and talk to me about their VA home loan benefit and say, hey, have you seen your veteran service officer to check on your VA service-related disability? I've had dozens of vets come in and go, well, I went and talked to the guy, and he said, well, I was in the National Guard. I might not qualify. I'm like, you were in the National Guard, went on a combat deployment for a year in Iraq, and you were an 11 Bravo and drove in a Humvee and fired a 50 caliber at the bad guy. I think that qualifies you, no matter if you were in the Guard or not. You certainly are qualified, because his wife had always complained about his hearing was bad and so on. I said, no, you need to go to the table and get your benefit, not just for you, but for your children, because they're going to have that benefit too for the college tuition reduction. So don't leave that on the table. So that's been part of what I've transitioned. We talked about when you're a leader, when you're a non-commissioned officer, and you think about what those drill sergeants did for you. They were encouragers. They had different ways to motivate you, obviously. Some things were a lot of punishment, obviously, but that a lot of them did motivate you, and they found out who you were, and then they guided you to becoming maybe from being a sharpshooter to an expert, or they encouraged you in other ways that helped you. So in my case, I found that was one skill set that I had that I found to be, how can I give back to my veterans, my veteran friends who are, and my fellow soldiers and Marines? What can I do to help them? And I think encouragement was one of the things that, not only educating about the VA loan benefit, but encouraging them to continue on and connect with their veteran service officers, and encourage them to go in and keep trying to get their benefits, because in many cases, many cases, there's a lot of folks who are beat up and broken, and they need to go get their benefit. And so how I wanted to tail dove off of that was that the more I got into that, the more I found how veterans, and again, I did the same thing. I procrastinated for many years. I thought, oh, that's not a big, I shouldn't have to do that, or that's something not for me. Or again, I didn't dodge bullets. And, did I really deserve that benefit? And it's really not that. It's about, here was my service. Here's what I did for my service, and just state your claim. And it's up to the VA to determine if you have a disability or service-related disability or not, and so on. So then I looked at, okay, well, what can we be doing for veterans who want to start businesses? What other benefits are out there? So I started digging into that, and that's part of the commission that I became part of for the governor. And I'm finding that there are dozens and dozens of resources out there that veterans aren't aware of. So my big goal with this commission, of course, is obviously spend time with you today, and maybe encourage other veterans to go out and start asking questions. Well, what is out there for me? How can I start this? And I know there's dozens and dozens of people who want to help, who are there, but it's kind of like, this from being in the military, the left hand and the right hand kind of they're not connected here. And I see that with so many people who want to help, and so many veterans who are out there who are searching. And so hopefully what we're doing today will help provide some opportunity for some additional outreach and additional engagement, so that they can find out what the benefits are. But the first one I would say would be, as we had talked about here, the Indiana Small Business Development Center. That's huge, because there's no charge for this. The Indiana Development Business Center is, their job is to go find people to help. And I feel like my job is to help guide people to them, so that they get grant money, they get federal money, they get tax money from, again, the federal government, state government, and grants to help small business owners. And you get a coach, and it's no charge. So you get people to help you, and you get their network opportunity to network with other people who already have those skill sets, who want to help.
Yeah, that's definitely informative. I mean, I didn't know there was so much on that end from a veteran standpoint within the Hoosier state. So that's awesome. I appreciate you sharing that.
Let's see, what else would there be out there? I think about the educational piece, and when I'm talking to veterans about becoming vetted to do business with the state of Indiana, I want to encourage them to help with their business planning. So do some coursework. Look at Ivy Tech, Center for Entrepreneurship. Do some coursework, get ready, and then find you a coach. And there is also, the organization is called SCORE, and I forget the acronym, what it means. But basically, it's retired people who, men and women, who want to go out and coach and help other small business owners. And so we talked about Rotary earlier. I met a Rotarian down in Evansville, and he was part of this organization. And I connected him with another gentleman who's a veteran, who he's working on his business plan. He got his business started, but he hasn't quite got it matured. Well, I linked those two together, so he's become this veterans coach, which, what a cool connection. And like I said, it's the left hand and the right hand. What can we do to more educate and make a list of all of those folks out there who want to help, and then get the veterans comfortable with connecting with them. Again, I see that quite often, that the veterans, when they get out, they kind of want to be done with their service mentally, and they don't want to, and many are very humble, and they feel like, well, I don't want to take a handout.
Hmm.
Uh, I don't want to do something that I've not earned. But realize that there's so many resources out there. That's all you have to do is just step up to the table and say, hey, I want to be coached, or I want to see what other additional benefits are out there for me, because I served, and I feel like what I'm doing is going to continue to serve society and help serve the state and help serve my community.
You're making a point about the service. That honestly, many veterans, when they come back to their communities, that's one of the things that they want to do is serve, right?
Mhm.
So connecting that, obviously, personally, professionally, from a civic aspect, it's all interconnected.
Absolutely.
Well, I got one more important question for you.
Oh, please. Yes. Thank you.
Why Indiana?
Why Indiana? Okay. So why do I live in Indiana, or why did I decide not to, or why did I decide to move away?
Yeah,
Or
like why are you? So, are you initially from Indiana?
yes, I'm born and raised. Yeah.
So why'd you stay, and why, and could you tell somebody about what makes Indiana great as a Hoosier veteran?
Okay, so born and raised, went to high school here in my little community. Then again, joined active. I was on active duty. I went to Fort Carson, Colorado. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful state. I had a great tour of duty. I was downrange half of the time, but that's okay. And then went to Heidelberg, Germany, and learned about my German roots. So my little town has a lot of German heritage. So I was fortunate to be able to be stationed in Germany, and then later on go back to college and actually study German, do an internship. My wife and I moved several times. She's a family practice doctor, and we moved to different places. Lived in Indianapolis, and and her family is from Indiana, and we talked about other states, moving to Texas, and we talked about Florida, and we talked about other areas. But it's just our home, and we've got well, I think about, we have the four seasons, and we have in our area, like other states that don't have all of those, right? And we've got variety. But Indiana is such a great place I think in terms of the economy, in terms of cost of living, and I think about safety, and that's a big factor. And I think about all of the small towns in the area, and how relatively safe and how comfortable they are. So when it came to raising a family, we just felt like we had so many benefits here that going somewhere else was just a little foreign to us. We're from here, so I guess part of that, to be fair, is obviously we're biased because we were both my wife and I were born and raised here. But again, we feel like the quality of life is very, very good. And where we're from in Southern Indiana, if we have the small hometown feel, but if we want to travel away, we're just an hour away from big cities and big shopping centers, and about 2.5 hours away from Indianapolis. So if we really want the metropolitan experience, we've got it
And
very
you feel
close.
like you're not on top of each other living out here. I think there's so much space that
Yes,
you can,
yes. Well,
you know.
you're absolutely right. So hobbies and things that we like to do, hunting, for example. Uh, there's so much recreation, outdoor recreation, and it's just a great place to be. I think that when it comes to quality of life, we have a very high standard, or a great quality of life.
I agree. I agree. Well, I have one more thing to
Sure.
add. Thank you for your service, and thank you for being a guest today.
Thank you
Um,
for your support.
really, of course, and really appreciate you telling your story. And as everyone may know, this segment, or the Patrick Connection, is aimed to highlight Hoosier veterans and the great things that they're doing for the Hoosier State. So, Darren, I'm going to connect with you in a little bit. Give me 1 second. Everyone, join me next month as we meet our next guest. There'll be more details coming. And that being said, until next time, stay warm, cool, or wherever benefits you where you are in the world. And till next time.
A thriving job market and low cost of living, plus a wide range of veteran benefits, make Indiana the perfect place for veterans of the United States military to call home. InVets can help you find that home. We're an organization started by veterans to help former service members transition to civilian life in our state. InVets can help you find the community with the career opportunities, housing, schools, and amenities that fit your lifestyle. To learn more about InVets, visit us at invets.org today.